I'd like to talk to you about hexagonal street design. And maybe it's an idea that whose time has come, or maybe it's something that was rejected for good reason in the past. Let's revisit the whole thing and see what the logic is of building one today. So, um, in the past, people did not really have GPS or even widespread use of signage for the streets. So the design of the roads was in a way forced to be a grid, two-dimensional grid. And there was a lot more pedestrian traffic in the past. And yes, pedestrian traffic is a desirable thing in certain places and certain cultures. But it's also something that in some places is not really highly valued. In suburbias of America, you barely see people walking on the streets. So, how to design a city that would satisfy perhaps certain societies? Would the hexagonal city do the trick today? Well, let's take a look. And here is a hexagonal uh, road network, but how would we traverse it? So one way to possibly solve the problem is to create a grid like this. So you here have in red the clockwise one-way inner rings, and in blue the counterclockwise inner roadway ring. So on the inside of, of this particular hexagon, what you have is a constant circle. So I guess you would merge onto it from these streets in here. You would have some kind of neighborhood here. And then you would get onto this. Now, clearly, these hexagons would have to be bigger if you want higher speeds. And these corners would not be as sharp. There would be at least some space here where these roads would be separate from each other, and the corners would come in very. Uh, it would look like like circles instead of sharp hexagons. That's to allow for higher speeds, and then you would come here and you would basically merge where you have two roads that are going in the same directions. You have the opportunity to merge from one circle onto the other circle. So by doing this, you can basically keep merging, and through merging you can keep going. You can merge from this red one to this blue one, from this blue one to this red one, from this red one. I guess you could keep going to this blue one, and then you can switch from this blue one to this red one, and in this way you can keep basically going along this direction. So to demonstrate that, let's just show this green line here, how you would get from this point to this point. You would just follow this pattern, and then you would be there. And this is kind of complicated for people. Okay, so basically normal people in the past would probably really not want to ride on these roads. This would be uh, confusing and stressful. People don't really like merging, but with the self-driving cars, maybe this would work. So maybe this is something that would be really enjoyable to ride in when there's self-driving cars around. You would just sit back, you would trust the machine to merge correctly, and you could just observe your surroundings and never have to bother with stopping. So maybe this is not the idea for the past, maybe this is something for the future. Now, yes, in the future, if you have self-driving cars, potentially they can all talk to each other, they can slow down and speed up appropriately so that they can hit the intersections exactly at the right time, so you minimize the amount of time you have to wait at the stoplight. So yes, that may come to, but That's a level of automation where you have to talk to other cars, you have to have a communication network that works, and you have to trust that a lot of the system is up and running. Now, well, maybe that's not something you can completely rely on, and even though that's probably the best that the civilization will be able to do because we're more likely to retrofit what we already have than to build anything new, this would be something that would allow for just riding along the streets without having to have that infrastructure. So an interesting pattern emerges here. You can go like this horizontally, but actually you cannot do that. You cannot go as easily up and down as you, sorry, I'm just looking for it. So yes, if you look here, if you want to go up and down on this map, you have to go and do a horizontal move. And that's not all that desirable, actually. That's very, people get frustrated where they're moving sort of at 90 degrees to where they really want to go. On the other hand, they don't have to wait for a traffic light, so it's a trade-off. But normal city streets that allow you to go just horizontally and vertically in a grid, they don't really allow you to go very effectively in a diagonal direction. Although this is arguably even worse than the penalty you pay for going diagonally. But you can do other things. So you can move kind of diagonally in these two directions. So if we are yes, so these directions, you can move diagonally this way and diagonally this way. So there is a kind of a way that you can go along the sides of a equilateral triangle. So it kind of builds a meta pattern here where you can move in certain directions far more easily than others. So the way you would think about your neighborhood and would be in terms of where you can reach very easily. And so where you can reach very easily would just change. It would just be a different setup. And so and this is how that would work. And that's what it looks like on its own without really adding in any complexity. But let's just say we want to integrate highways into this. And that's where things get a little bit complicated. So we're going to integrate highways because we don't really want to go at high speeds on these roads. Let's say, even though these blocks could easily be, half a kilometer by half a kilometer or bigger. There are plenty of cities with giant blocks made for life inside that's sort of self-contained. The communist countries tended to do this. There may be some examples in other places as well. But yeah, you could easily set up a block where you have all your needs that you need on a day-to-day basis, like school, like a store, and all these other just everyday needs met just right here, like a doctor's office or whatever you need would be within this kilometer by kilometer or half a kilometer by half a kilometer block. And then you would basically have like a bridge here and here and here and here and here so that you don't obstruct traffic. I mean, one of the advantages of a grid system is that you have the opportunity to build a pedestrian crossing on every crossing of the streets, okay? But if your blocks are this huge, then putting in a bridge here and here is not as big of a deal simply because there's not that many of them. This is a giant number of people living here and working here. And so there's literally thousands. So it's not like a little block of few houses that in a city street map. In fact, those mini grids would appear probably within these neighborhoods, whatever these neighborhoods may be designated for, however they're developed. So this kind of traffic pattern would happen here. But let's talk about highways again. So, okay, so here we have just a proposal for a highway system being put in place here. So here we have like to sacrifice certain hexagons. So maybe not a complete sacrifice. Uh, Basically, what you have is these highways going below the city streets. Probably that would be the best solution, so that you don't just have a huge monument to the highway system built right in the middle of your city with a skyway highway. Uh, so that's it would be preferable to sync it, both for the noise concerns, the visual aesthetics. But you can do whatever you want. I mean, I'm not the person that makes these decisions, anyways. So this highway would go right in the middle of these hexagons, and maybe you can develop this area to block some of the noise and to block the visuals. You can maybe put in some office space or some malls that don't have windows or something like that, or parking garages, whatever you want to do. And you can put it on both sides, and then from time to time you would have an off ramp or an on ramp onto the system. So the on ramp in this off ramp in this case, for example, would take you right in the middle of these two roads, which is not optimal, to be honest, because then a person driving along here would uh, have to cross two lanes of traffic, lane coming off of the highway and then lane in this inner circle in order to switch onto this road. So that makes the traffic pattern kind of not so optimal. But the traffic above here and above here would keep going, so that's a plus at least. And so that's the design for this. But what's unusual about this hexagonal system is that you cannot really do the same thing in the vertical as well as the horizontal. So your horizontal highway would probably, I mean, what makes logical sense, maybe done this way or maybe not, is that this gets done with like a highway that goes underneath these city streets here. So in fact, even though this green line is seemingly above this, I just wanted to show that it keeps going throughout the whole picture. But it would be underneath these roads. So you would build a local street road above the highway. And then you would have off ramps. Now, the off ramps may actually look a bit bizarre, because what would make optimal sense if you just think about traffic flow, it would be very sensible to have two off ramps instead of one, because one off ramp would just go underneath this road, for example, and then go on the inside of this particular hexagon, and then yes, and then this one would go on the inside of this hexagon. So that way, you basically have all of this time, all of this space to merge into the local road network. And if you don't, in this case, if you don't merge in, you would actually get onto another highway on ramp, which would take you the other way. You would just go from this direction of the highway to the opposite direction of the highway, and that's how this whole thing works. There's symmetry here, so it works in the other direction as well. So that's the story. of these on-ramps and off-ramps, but we can take a look at what like an intersection of these two highways would be. So this is just my fantasy. I don't really know if this is optimal, probably not, but you could easily just say, all right, well, I'm going to sacrifice these blocks here. These blocks are getting sacrificed, and I'm plopping in an intersection. Okay, whatever intersection design you want, you can plop it in. I just chose for fun to have like this unusual intersection design that based on merging. So these roads just go along the ground, and you don't need to merge it all into anything if you want to just keep going straight. So you can just keep going straight this way, or in every direction really. You can just keep going straight. Now clearly this overlap here and here is these roads getting elevated and then crossing each other and then getting sunk back into this ring. So that may seem very expensive. Maybe it is, but it's very useful for everyday people to just ride along the road. That's you don't need to. You can just go through the intersection without changing any lanes if you just want to keep going straight on a highway. So it's not terribly complicated as an intersection, although there's easier intersections designed than this. But this is just for fun. So so that's the big idea. And of course, this is something for entertainment purposes. Whether this would work or not, it's really a big question of first simulating this. You would want to design a good simulation of this. This is a fairly unusual setup, so I don't know if the simulator would even work properly because simulators expect very ordinary setups. And you have also to worry about, well, if you really want to see this, you would have to promote it because somebody up there that designs cities would have to hear about this eventually. So, if somebody wants to do it, maybe you can make a rendering version of this, 3D rendering version of this, which looks good. It's easier to convey information to people when things look good and when things are better presented than this. And, people are designing cities that look like a single line now, so I don't know what that's all about. It may be sensible to put this in some place in the world. The world is a big place. Maybe somebody would find a use for a design like this. Maybe there is space for this to exist as well. Then again, maybe not. Most roads networks are just designed as the city grows, and it's very difficult to design a top-down vision of what the city looks like. And this is definitely something that would require a strong hand from some top-down planner. So maybe this is actually impossible to implement from just how human societies work perspective. In any case, I just hope you had been entertained with the possibilities. And yeah, feel free to comment and tell me how this is a really dumb idea. Or, you can always put this in a video game, something, do something with it. Have fun. Okay, bye. Have a good day.